Information on the TSI or the new TSI, TSI test. And if you have questions, we'll try to provide as much information. There's still some information that has not come in yet, but please definitely feel free to ask questions at any time. I don't have a chat open, so if you guys can help me with that, but yeah, feel free to ask questions. My name is Ruth Engel. I am the Department Chair of Academic Foundations. Jim or Kristen, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Kristen Hemingway. I am the Department Chair of Mathematics here at Trinity.
And I'm Jim Schrantz, and I'm the Chair of English and Language Acquisition here at Trinity.
Okay. Let me go ahead and give a little, okay, so hold on one second. Let me see if I can do this quickly. Let me give a little information about the TSI. And we will go ahead and start here. So this is just our lovely, if you've ever wondered about the TSI or how it might influence your class, this is what we're going to try to cover. So what is the TSI A2 and what is it for? Now this language, just to let you guys know, this language is directly from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So I will also put a link, or I will figure out how to give you access to this PowerPoint. And I'm not going to read all of it because, in my opinion, it's often dry, but that I'll just kind of give you some information. So the purpose of the TSI program is to guide Texas public institutions of higher education in determining whether entering non-exempt students are ready for college level coursework. So you see that in a couple of different areas, and I'm sorry if you already are aware of this, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So the subject matters are math, reading, and writing. Those are covered, so if it's a reading and writing intensive course, that's where the TSI comes into play specifically, and if it's a math intensive course, the TSI comes into play. And the students, when they enter, there are some exceptions, but when the students enter Trinity or TCC, they will take this test and it will tell them where their placement is on a score, and we have the test scores at the end, and so I can show you where all that is. Okay, so what subjects and skills that are covered in the TSI, and this is the A2. Let me explain what the A2 is. So the TSI has been around for a while. Kristen, do you know, or Jim, do you know?
I think the TSI, it evolved out of AccuPlacer about 6 or 7 years ago, I think it was.
Okay, we'll that.
And yeah, I'm just going to be quiet now because I think you're going to explain the distinction between this one and the previous TSI,
okay,
which is significant for the English and language arts.
Exactly. We'll go ahead and say 6 or 7 years ago because I'm horrible with dates right now. Everything's blurring together. But they, so the state has updated their TSI test. Originally, it had as individual tests math, reading, and writing. And that was when reading and writing. So this applies specifically, this new test has adapted a lot more for the reading and writing. But I do believe, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have made some changes besides just the cutoff scores to the math, have they not? Or
they have made changes, but the changes for the math actual assessment is more looking at past data and making it a better assessment and more targeted on specific topics. So y'all's change has been very, very different because it's been that combination. Mm-hmm. So ours is just that it's hopefully better.
Okay.
Which is awesome.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah, right. We're going to find out.
Exactly. So with this new version, the A2, because the classes for reading and writing were no longer taught separately, they ended up combining the test itself. So, and if you see on, again, on my screen, I hope it's on the right side for you too, but it's the ELAR, the English Language Arts and Reading. So it's now one test. So there are only two sections, if you will, to this new TSI A2 test. And these are the subject matters that are covered. So you have under math, the quantitative reasoning, the algebraic reasoning, okay, can't say that right now. Actually, Kristen, do you want to talk at all about these, or do you want to wait until we reach the next slide?
Yeah, I'll jump in and just give a quick definition, differentiate those four topics. These are the four main, what they call strands of the assessment, the quantitative reasoning. And you could think what we at TCC call quantitative reasoning is contemporary math. They're kind of one and the same. So contemporary, quantitative reasoning, those are kind of synonymous with each other, but quantitative reasoning is more of the accepted language statewide. So that's what you'll hear is quantitative reasoning. And that is where you're reasoning out basic math situations. It can involve variables. It doesn't necessarily involve variables. So just to give a quick example, you're baking a pie. It requires 2 eggs. You decide you're going to bake 10 pies. So how many eggs do you need? Something like that. It's more of a basic reasoning math. Algebraic reasoning is definitely a step up, only because it involves a lot more symbols. So when you go from arithmetic, which is seen as no symbols, it does have basic symbols, but it's more the manipulation of numbers. And then when you jump into algebraic reasoning is where you've got your variables involved and your symbols. And algebra can go from very basic to hair pulling out difficulty. In the assessment, it doesn't, go that far, but algebraic covers just a wide range, but it does introduce those symbols as the main difference. Geometric and spatial reasoning involves visual objects in 2D or 3D space, so points, lines, solids, circles. And in the assessment, it is pretty basic. We don't basic shapes are circles, spheres, prisms, things like that. Probabilistic and statistical reasoning is, as that states, statistics is the collecting and analyzing data, which, just as a side note, is an exploding discipline right now. Businesses are just dying for data scientists. So that's a huge topic. And I believe the TSI is really, the math portion is really ramping up those type questions because it is so needed out in the workforce. And then probability is the likelihood of something happening. And usually in a statistical course, you get probability. That's kind of where it starts out. So that's why those are kind of lumped together.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Then on the flip side of that, the ELAR, you'll have the reading focus that will take a literary text and analyze it, and then informational texts. So you'll have excerpts from a story that they will need to figure out what the main focus is, or what the message is, or informational text. So, and I'm trying to think of a good example, how to, not necessarily a map, but sometimes more of like a flyer, or sometimes just literary, not literary essays, but informational essays. So it's more of a like how-to guides, and analyze those and how do they work. Then under the writing focus, you have essay revision and editing, and that is how can you make your writing better? What is this sentence correct? What needs to be fixed here? And the sentence revision, editing, and completion. with all of these, and let me go ahead and go to the next slide. With all of these, the breakdown, and you can see they are all multiple choice questions until you reach the essay itself for the English language, arts and reading. That is a written essay, but all of the rest of these questions, so you have 20 math questions to start off with and 30 English language and arts reading questions. And that's what you start off with. And before I continue moving on into that, Jim, did you want to add anything example-wise to the ELAR?
Oh, I was just going to back you up on the statement about the reading test. It's often read this passage and what's the main idea of this passage. So it's trying to kind of catch students on not getting distracted by anecdotes that might be starting off a story, and making sure that students read carefully and thoroughly and can extract what is the meat as opposed to the spice in a particular passage. And sometimes they're tricky.
Perfect. No, that's a great example of that. So with these questions, and I'll try to show you some examples of these questions that they offer, but they will have multiple choice. And if you see here at the top, you see the CRC, and that's some of their new terminology. So they have two categories of questions. They have the CRC and the diagnostic test. So both math and ELAR have just the bare minimum of 30 and 20 of the CRC. Depending how the student scores on those, if they score high enough, and I'll show you those numbers here in a bit, but if they score high enough, then they're done. Now with the ELAR, if they score high enough, they'll jump right into the essay. However, if they score below the cutoff, then they go to the diagnostic. And both diagnostic tests have 48 questions that are multiple choice as well. Now they can still score high enough on the diagnostic test to still be college ready, but that's, and again, I'll show you the numbers when we get there. So the path, well, and I'm jumping ahead of myself, I'll show you the pathways. Kristen, Jim, do you want to add anything to that?
I do want to make sure that everyone understands, I don't think we've mentioned yet, this is an adaptive test.
Thank you. No.
As the students go through, the more questions they get right, the harder and harder the questions get. And so it's not a simple matter of if you get 14 out of 20, you can get 12 out of 20 possibly. It just depends on where you missed your questions.
Yes, exactly. And that's an important factor. Thank you.
And on the math side, just to be clear, on that initial CRC portion where it's 20 questions, they are multiple choice and it is adaptive. And when you get to the diagnostic test, it covers still those same 4 core strands that were in that previous slide. So it's not on the math end. It's not that the diagnostic test switches and changes all up on you. It's still associated with those 4 core topics. It just goes more in depth. And one piece on the multiple choice, because it's kind of like, whoa, a 20 question multiple choice, that's kind of dinky, like to be placing you. But because it is adaptive, and I know on the math side anyway, I'm just speaking for math because I don't know anything about the reading one. The multiple choice are trickier than you think. So there might be one answer that's maybe obvious to throw out, but the other 2 are not just these random answers. They're usually student top errors. So they purposely, not purposely, but we as instructors, after you teach a class for so long, what the students are going to do wrong. You can also all kind of head it off in your lectures. That's kind of how a good multiple choice test is created, is those answers kind of target where they know the errors are going to be. So it just makes it more robust, and it hopefully gets them in more of a correct math placement.
Well,
That's
let's actually, to jump off of that, Kristen, let's go ahead and go to this next one. And this shows what the breakdowns are. So you can see just exactly what you were just talking about. So under quantitative reasoning, and I can let you take off from that if you want.
I've got some things I'm going to show near the end at the last slide, but this is just showing the breakdown. It has the CRC again is that first assessment. So you're going to take the complete CRC first. It's 20 questions, 6 are coming from quantitative reasoning, 7 are coming from algebraic, 3 geometric, and 4 statistics. And it even though it is adaptive, you're still, it doesn't matter how you answer, say, the quantitative reasoning, you're still getting 6, no matter what. Good, bad, whatever, you're getting 6 of those. And then if you are thrown into the diagnostic, where it's the next level in the testing, if you are, if it is deemed that you're not college ready from the CRC, then you go into that second portion, that diagnostic, and then you get 12 items from each of those 4. And again, it's just a little more in depth to kind of better assess where the student should be placed.
And you'll see on the ELAR that you have, they actually just cut it straight down the middle, 15 and 24 in the diagnostic. So 15 CRC of writing and 24 in the diagnostic. Did you want to add anything, Jim, before we move on?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay, so, and don't know how much we want to get into the weeds with this. So the routing for the TSIA2 ELR test, and I'll try to trying to think. I'm actually yeah, I'm gonna break here really quickly, guys, because I'm gonna go ahead and. Can you guys still see the screen with the cut scores?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to jump down to the Inrw cut scores. So the routing level that it's talking about is basically referencing. So if the student in the CRC ends up scoring 945 or above, and that's where they start off with, and they score, then if they score 945 or above, then they are sent to the essay. If they score a 5 to 8 on their essay, then they're done. So they did the 30 questions and then the essay, and they're done. If they did not score that high on the essay, then, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to correct myself. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to have to start from the beginning because I forget how to start in the middle. Okay, so if the CRC yields a score from 910 to 944, they are sent to the diagnostic. Now, once they're in the diagnostic, then they can have a couple of ways. So no, they're in the diagnostic. If the CRC says that, okay, I'm getting mine confused, sorry. Okay, that's right. If they are in the CRC, but their essay is, if their essay is below college readiness, then they are routed to the diagnostic as well. So they score 945 or above on the CRC, they take the essay, but they get a 1 to 4 in the essay, then they also have to take the diagnostic portion of the test. And so there's a couple of routes to get there. If they are routed to the diagnostic And in the diagnostic, they perform a score of 4 or higher, then they take the test. So the CRC, they did not score above 945. They scored below 945. And then they go to the diagnostic, and they score 4 or higher. In the diagnostic, they get a higher score, then they are sent to the essay. Trying to think. I'm going to go ahead and skip that one. And I've kind of already covered some of these. I'll do it when we look at the other one. Trying to think.
I think the long and short of that one is that we're still trying to catch students who might have guessed luckily on
Yes.
some of the questions, and when they get to the essay, show that they cannot actually construct an essay or a sentence properly. So it says, okay, something might have been screwy about that, and they route them back to the diagnostic. It also provides an escape valve if somebody guessed poorly in the test. But after looking closely at them through the diagnostic, turns out they're competent, they can be sent back to the essay. So it's just multiple paths to make sure we catch as many as we can, either needing help or ready to move forward.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
The pathways, and it is, there are many ways to get to many different alternatives, but they all end up with the cut scores depending on how the test routes them.
And unfortunately, all of this ends up with the advisors, and it is a very difficult process to read in place. But
yes,
it is, we are doing the best we can with the tool available.
Yes. Chris, do you want to go next? Kristen, did you want to talk on this one, or?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Gosh, that's so embarrassing. Should not be happening at this point, but that's okay. So this slide is just reiterating that the students start with that CRC test, and that's that first initial 20 multiple choice questions. And then if they are deemed not college ready, then they are thrown into the diagnostic test. I'm going to show, I've never done this. Can I share over you, Ruth, or do you have to stop sharing for me to share? I want to flip to our
I just stopped.
Score sheet. Okay, cool. Thanks. This is an example before we get, because all the numbers just get kind of like, whoa, what are you talking about anyway? So we'll get to the cut scores and look at the chart in a second. But from the math perspective, this is what a student receives when they're done. This is a score report. And this was done during the beta testing of this 2.0. So just scribbled out, it's just some personal information, but that's why it says the beta site, but it is now in effect as of yesterday, so there is no beta. But we were given the opportunity as faculty, we formed a committee to kind of fake take the test to see what it was like, and to form our new cut scores. So the key things I want to point out is that the student gets the score straight up right here where it says test results. It's not a mystery to them, or it shouldn't be as long as they look at it. It gives them information, you know, like how long it took them, which is, I think, can be key information. So this right here is a score that they get from either the CRC or if they're thrown into the diagnostic. Either one, no matter where their test stops, they get this first score here that says that they're ready and that, or they are not. And then if they are forced into taking the diagnostic side, which is that additional 48 questions, then they get a separate score that's called that diagnostic score. So this is just an example, and this test taker made a 916, which is not college ready. So then the test taker took the diagnostic portion, which is 48 questions, and from that diagnostic, the test gave them a score of 4, which both of these scores have meaning, which we'll get to the cut score, and which, like Jim was saying, where it gets really dicey with really with anybody, but advising, but definitely the students. They're very confused about this stuff. So I think it's really important as many faculty know just a little bit about the TSI. I think it really just helps everybody. But some other things I want to point out on the score sheet and are this right here. So these are the 4 topics that I've highlighted that were on the slides prior, and it tells the student, it gives them a proficiency level. Now, it is just a coincidence that these were all 2s. So it's not that these are all going to be the same level. You know, everybody knows that, hey, you might be good at algebra, but really bad at geometry type questions or whatever. So these could be really different numbers. But it's really helpful for a student if they are not college ready to know what they need to work on. And then down below, which is, you know, one of the coolest parts, I think, is that they get a learning plan. So it's a personalized learning path to prioritize or target what they should work on if they want to retake the TSI to get a higher score. So instead of a student just jumping in and just like randomly studying stuff, they get this personal code down at the bottom, which is going to be different for every student based on what topics you're proficient in. They go to the website, type in the code, and then it automatically generates kind of like a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a practice or a guide that is specific to them. Now, it might look like some other student's guide, but that would only be if the student was deficient in the same areas. So the personal guide is really, really, really a great and the best way for a student to go about attempting this test again. We don't want students going in and taking the TSI for math, getting their score, crumpling it up, and going back and retaking it without doing any studying or any looking or whatever. So this is really helpful information and free with the test cost that comes with it. So it's really something we want students to pay attention to down here. I do want to point out, because I think it's important as an educator, that this is managed by a bunch of different people, but Pearson Publishing kind of has they're the ones that put together the math guide for the students. And it's not that Pearson Publishing is trying to, you know, get their hands and everything, because there are many, many committees that look over this type stuff. But I think it is important to know that our publishers are involved in these type of assessments, and more as reassurance that when we use their products that they've already, I don't know if it's dove or dived. You guys can help me out on that, but they've already dove into this material. So I think that's really important to understand. I'm going to, Ruth, do you want me to stop talking because I'm a talker, or do you want me to go ahead and throw up the math, cut scores, and ramble on?
Well, hold on one second, because I don't remember what I had next on.
Gotcha. Sorry. Yeah, I know.
No, I'll be completely honest.
I'm done.
Pull this up. No, you're good. Oh, I did have, and this is one of the things that I'm not sharing this, am I?
I stopped sharing mine so that you could get yours back up there.
Hold on one second. Okay, the next thing that that I have are actually some sample questions. And you can, we can talk about that some if you want to, or we don't have to go through those necessarily. And I just have some possibilities, but the pre-assessment activity, and this is one thing really quickly I do want to touch on. So every student has to take, and I'm going to jump down to the resources really quick, guys, because I want to show you. Come I want to show you the College Board basically has a deal with, we can get some information from the AccuPlace or example test, and we can show you some of that, but they have a pre-assessment. So if a student comes to you and they have questions, what the pre-assessment does, they're required to take it, but, come on. Okay, this worked for me last time.
I think you have to hit control while you're clicking.
It is not showing up regardless, actually. So I'm just going to do this. I got it to work. Oh, I know why. How do I jump right to the end of it? Do you know?
Usually you just click on the slide that you want in the left-hand array.
Sorry, guys. Now I'm messing this up.
Double click it.
No.
Okay, I lied. Okay.
That's okay. And the preview is not going to show it to me. All right. If anyone wants to chime in and tell me. Sorry, I'm going through this so quickly, guys. Okay, there we go. Now I can click on that. So I wanted to show you what they've set up because this is new. Now I will also, something I did not mention at the beginning, as of yesterday, the new test went into effect. So as, it still defaults, sorry, onto my Edge that has not been able to be updated because I haven't been on campus. But the pre-assessment went live, I want to say on Sunday night. But if you want to play with this, I reached out to them earlier and you can just type in the information. So mine already, oh no, that's to request, sorry. You can test drive the pre-assessment activity and then you just get started. And then if you are at all curious, I know some of you probably are incredibly curious.
Ruth, I'm sorry to interrupt. We still see the PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, thank you so much.
If it opened the link in a different window, it's not showing that to us, or at least not on my side.
You are so exactly right. All right. Let me stop.
Yeah, you can choose up at the sharing. If you click it, you can choose the window.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, let me actually, can you see this now?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so it will click you. This is where the link will take you. I just went back. And then if you scroll down, you can test drive the PAA. And you'll just type in your information. You'll select the campus of TCC. And then it auto-filled last time. I thought, oh, that'll be excellent. And please ignore this information.
I don't know. I'm going to steal your email.
Actually, I'm thinking more my age. All right. Then you go. Why? Okay, I've tested this. I don't know how many times. Oh, that is not correct. Let's try that. Come on. That looks right. Someone shout out if you see something that I messed up on.
Well, does it kind of hold off until you give it a student ID number?
Oh, no, you do
good.
not have to give a student ID number. That's
Thank
one
God.
of the things.
Okay.
I know. Okay, so then it will send you this information. You can read all this. I'm just going to run through this really quickly because I just want, it's the exempt status. You can watch the video again for lack of time. I'm not going to show you. What I want to get to is, and then there's another quick one. But it will take you, and the students will watch these videos, and it's just talking about the importance of taking it. But then it will give you 10 math questions, 4 reading, and 6 writing, and they're practice only. So the student, before they even get anywhere else, the PAA gives them multiple choice, and you can go through, and it gives the explanation. So if you answer it correctly, huzzah. I've done this a number of times. That's why it actually, I will be honest, took me a while to figure that one out to begin with. And then I was like, oh, I got it. But if you say, I don't know, it will then give you the correct answer and your explanation. And it does that on all of those. So I wanted to present that before we moved on to anything else so that you guys had the information and that the students have. So if a student comes to you and asks about it, then you can help to explain them and kind of guide them to a couple of different things. I'm going to try, if I still have it up, well, or let me just do this really quickly. I'm going to take you to one of the other examples. And hold on one second. And then I will share that. Do you see the AccuPlacer page?
Yes.
Okay. This is also the other thing that the students can use. And in the presentation, I put some direct links, but this, I didn't put all of them. But you can go in here, you go to AccuPlacerCollegeBoard.org, and I believe, I'll throw this out. The copyright date is 2017 on these, so there may be something updated, but this is the newer one. This is not the older one that we've used in the past. And you can the students can practice. It is a practice one from AccuPlacer, and they can get it on their phone. You see the study app, and then they can download these various samples. So you have a reading sample, writing sample, still not sure why they're separating those, but regardless. And then you have the various subject matters in math. You also have ESL sample questions. You have an essay writing prompt, and both with a right placer guide for sample essays and a right placer ESL for samples. So I wanted you to see and have access to those. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. And now let me ask, Kristen, was there something you wanted to add to some of that information, or do you want to go to the cut scores? Oh, you're muted.
Lost you.
I don't have anything to add. It's just valuable for our students to actually practice before they take this. So most students, or I don't know if I should say most because I really don't know, but I do know a lot of students who don't practice and they just go in and take it, which is perfectly fine. But I think they'd be shocked if they just did an hour of pre-assessment or an hour of, hey, what's really going to be on this test? And I think their score would jump up drastically because sometimes they just need a refresher on some of these skills. If, algebra, if you're not doing algebra every day, you're probably going to forget some basic stuff. So we always promote, just go and look at least what's on it. Go to the sites that Ruth just showed us to practice it before they take it. I think Tracy, did you have your hand up? Was your question answered? Are you good?
So it's kind of a two-parter. First part is after you gave us that link for the AccuPlacer on the College Board website. I did a search on there and I found that they actually have 3 downloadable study guides that specifically say TSIA2. And they have copyright dates of 1/6/2021. So updated last Wednesday. So I put the link in the chat to those with the very most recent copyright links, or sorry, the links to the most updated ones.
I needed a librarian to help me when I was doing research for this. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no worries. My question, which is related, is that in the library we get asked all the time by prospective students for study guides, etc. And I know that Mometrics still has one of the older study guides. Has the test changed so much that you as faculty would no longer recommend that we use that one? Should we just stick to this one that's from College Board that seems to be the most recently updated?
I can speak for the math. There are, just to back up just a little bit, AccuPlacer College Board, they do offer these guides, but there are also private companies that offer just as good, if not better, guides. I personally think Mometrics is better, has better guides than AccuPlacer. On the math end, it's kind of an opinion, but because the math topics have not changed, it's just tighter, if that makes sense, and more targeted. I think the older guides are just as good, but I would go with the updated guides just because it's going to have more of that targeted information, and it's more targeted especially in that statistical area, which the state is really trying to hit hard. So the statistic questions are going to be the main difference in the math portion. But I don't know personally if Mometrics has come out with an updated study guide, but I'm sure they will because they're on top of that type of stuff. That's all I got on the math.
One thing I would throw out for the ELAR, one thing, and I'll agree with you, Kristen, I think extra, I don't think it would do any harm. I don't think the Mometrics would do any harm. And the more examples and the more study you can do, the better. However, I think that it would be good for the students to have the experience through the actual AccuPlacer testing because it's trying to combine it closer and it's trying to make it more in tune. I don't know how different it is.
We missed the invitation to take the practice.
Yeah.
I cynically doubt that it has changed substantially,
Mm-mm.
just given the nature of what can be tested for English online. So I suspect that the old study guides would be as good for English and reading.
Thank you. That helps a lot. I just wanted to make sure that if I pointed a prospective student in the direction of the Mometrics, I wasn't giving them something that was so out of date that's going to mess them up more than help them. So thank you.
On the English side, what tended to trip up our students were rhetorical terms that were being asked in the reading, because students would be asked, what was the tone of this particular article? And they'd be asked, was it jovial or angry, and they'd say, I have no idea what jovial is, so that's probably the right answer.
Yeah, I don't think the other study guides would do any. I think it would still help.
What we're saying is anything would help.
Yes. Any questions before we move on to the cut scores? All right, let me go ahead and pull up the cut scores. And where? Hold on one second.
Now the cut scores is a place where we've had some rather profound change.
So just shrink that, and here we go. Okay. Kristen, do you want to do yours first?
It's totally fine. If you want me to do mine first, I'm going to ask you to unshare that because I've kind of highlighted some things. It's the same exact document, but it's more for my reference. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what I'm bringing up is the exact same document that Ruth just brought up. I just wanted to point out some key things on this cut score chart, which it has not actually, I'm finding out it's not been, I don't know the word, but passed around the district everywhere yet. So this is like fresh and new. And if you've seen it, you're in the secret club or whatever, but it is starting to get around, but it is so new. And not to bore you with all of this information, because a lot of it, the numbers don't mean a lot to everybody, but there are some key things that I wanted to point out. First is our math cut scores have drastically changed. So just for example, for TSI1, which was last week, if you took the TSI, if your diagnostic level was 1 through 4, then you were placed into a foundations course with Ruth, which is math 0090. So you can see now it's drastically changed where the diagnostic level 1 is the only level that's going to get you put into that class. So they're just, the cut scores are completely changed. The green highlighted courses are our co-requisite courses, and I want to point those out because we're still, trying to get the word out about those and what in the world those are, especially if you're not, if you're not in the math or English world, then co-requisite goes in one ear and out the other because it doesn't maybe apply to you. But the green highlighted classes are our co-requisites, so that's why it has this ampersand in there, because it's actually 2 classes. It's the credit course and then the developmental piece merged together. So this is a co-req course, co-req course, co-req course, co-req course, co-req course, co-req course. And then the other thing I wanted to point out on this chart that is not obvious, and I get asked about it a billion times this semester, is this math 0111. District-wide, every student who now falls into these 2 categories. It doesn't matter your proficiency level or anything. If you enroll in contemporary math or statistics, you are automatically enrolled in math 0111. It's a free Blackboard shell with resources, and that's all it is. So it's not an actual course. It doesn't have assignments. It doesn't have due dates, and it really has no communication from me except from at the beginning of the semester, because I'm the instructor on record, in the middle, and then at the end. Everyone gets credit for it no matter what. It's completely free to the student, and it doesn't go on their transcript. So it's kind of like this hidden little help course that's tacked on. So when you see math 0111, yeah, it has to do with your TSI score, but it more has to do with, hey, these are just some extra resources to help you. Another thing I want to point out is down here is now to take statistics at TCC, obviously district-wide, you do have to be TSI complete in reading, which I don't know if there will be changes with that with the new TSI, whether it be reading and writing, but that really, just to be completely honest, we have a lot of students who come into Trinity River who are not TSI met in reading, and so they could be TSI met in math, but still can't take the statistics course because they're not TSI met in reading. And maybe it's a language barrier, maybe it's a billion other factors, but because there's so much reading involved in statistics, we have that requirement. So it just makes it extra dicey and fun for the advisors to work with. And then the last thing is this diagnostic score of 6. So if a student scores in the very first 20 multiple choice questions, if they score a 950 or above, they are considered college ready and they can take whatever class that they need, credit math course for their pathway. If they score below 950, then they take the diagnostics test, and then that's where these, what we call these extra cut scores, come in. And then this is where your placement, this line right down the middle, is our pathways. So we have the algebraic pathway and the non-algebraic pathway. So that's why they're completely separated. This number 6, this diagnostic score of 6, is what the state is calling the second chance with the TSI. It's not necessarily I don't really like that language just because it's a little vague. It's not a second chance as in the student got to start over and retry the TSI from the start, because I don't believe in test retakes. But it means that from those first 20 questions, they didn't quite meet the college ready mark, but from those 48 other questions, which is, you know, obviously a better and bigger assessment, if they score a 6, it's like, okay, now you've proven yourself to be college ready. So if you score a 6, you still, it's essentially the same as if you had scored a 950 or above from the start. So that's why they call it a second chance. So if a student, it's important for a student, if they know anything about the TSI, if they go into the diagnostic test, it doesn't mean that they're not necessarily college ready, because they have this chance to kind of bump up their score. So if they score a 6, they can take any math credit course and they're ready to rock. Other than that, that's really all that I wanted to point out on this cut scores, unless someone has a question. So are there any questions before we move on to the reading and writing? I mean, I definitely don't expect, you know, everyone to memorize these cut scores because they're not really relevant to a lot of people, but I just wanted to point out those key things. All right, I am going to stop sharing. Sorry, Ruth, now you can throw up. I have to not throw up, but throw up your thing.
I was with you. I was with you. And okay, then somewhat similar to the math, I'm gonna start down here. So basically, if they score 945 to 990 and they get the essay, I already mentioned that earlier, essay 5 to 8, then they're college ready and they don't have a diagnostic score at all. However, if they score the 945 but they get a 4, it knocks them back to the diagnostic and they have to get a level 6 to be able to go into what we have as an Ncbo. The 0114, and this is, they have a choice actually here of 0114 or 0399. Now the 0399 is our INRW, and it's the highest level, and all of our classes are correct. And so it would be taught with English, psychology, or sociology currently.
Okay. Ruth,
Okay.
would
Yep.
you explain what an Ncbo is real quickly for
And the
people who don't live this?
Thank you. The Ncbo right here, the 0114, Ncbo stands for non-course based option. And what that is, basically the student will receive additional help. So they will be enrolled in, I'm going to throw out a psychology class, and again, you can see their score is close, but they just didn't quite make it over. Therefore, currently I teach the 0114 classes because I'll just leave it at that. And we have additional help. The writing center, they have to go through the writing center a lot. There are requirements tied in that I placed in there that the writing center covers a lot of this, and they give seminars and they help with their papers. And so instead of just the option of going to the writing center for this particular section, they are required to go to the writing center. We don't ever have to meet. When we were face-to-face, I would have them stop by my office once or twice a semester, but predominantly we respond through emails. They will update me if they're having a hard time, or if they're struggling in a particular area, or if they are, you know, if they don't understand something, they'll come to me and then I will help them get those resources. So it's something a little bit along that line. It's a much looser structure. They'll generally have an assignment, especially since we've moved online, about once a week, and it's assignments that are tied into their credit class. So I will have them like, let me look at your paper. Let's talk about that. Let me look at this. Let's talk about that, or something along that line. So they do get a credit or non-credit grade. So they get CR or NC. They do not get a letter grade. It does not affect their GPA. They do not pay for it. It is also free. So, and again, even when we are face-to-face, there's no structured time. So that's kind of, an Ncbo is unusual, but it's just a non-course based option. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay. Then moving on from there, you have, so again, they get the 945, and you can break some of these down. They get a diagnostic level of 6, but their essay is still low. They automatically go into the 0399 course. 1 through 4, 4 through 5, 0399. And then even if they got a 945 or above, and their diagnostic is low enough, they will be sent into. Now, the essay does not affect the placement. That's why this has been removed. But by receiving the 945, they still had to take the essay to knock them back in to the diagnostic level. So it's not that they didn't receive the essay, it's that it does not affect their placement score, which makes it a little confusing. I don't know why we didn't include that, but it was decided that that would not be included. Then if they get 944 or below, but a diagnostic level of 5 and 6 and an essay of 5 through 8, they are also deemed as college ready. And then you can see where the rest. So essays of 1 through 4 and a diagnostic of 5 through 6, they go into the 399. But any essay 1 through 8, if they have a diagnostic of 4 and they are below 944, they automatically go into 0090. And then if they score low enough, and this is where if they scored low enough here, below 944, and their diagnostic was 3 or below, they are not even given an essay, and they go directly into the 0090. And so those are the cut scores currently. Again, I'll echo what Kristen said, not that you necessarily need to memorize these, but that that gives you an idea. Let me stop the share. Jim, did you want to add something to that? Oh, you're muted.
Ooh, I don't feel so bad.
Oh, I'll make you feel better. And if that helps, I will be happy throughout the rest of this discussion. So that is, I'm always driving through tunnels.
Thank you.
And my pleasure. No, as you said, a lot of this is getting into the weeds of
Yeah.
what our poor advisors are having to deal with and our poor students are having to deal with. I think the key takeaway for us is that we are making improvements on the path students can take to find their way to credit-bearing classes. I know that for a long time in math, for example, there were so many anecdotal stories of students coming back and saying, I took the test and I passed high school calculus, and it's saying I'm not ready for college algebra yet. But now we've got this, more complex, if you do mess up somehow, the diagnostic will catch you. There are other paths so that you can prove yourself. Same thing with English, that there are paths so that if you just have a bad string of 4 questions where you did not know how to use a semicolon and then didn't know how to use a compound complex sentence with a coordinating conjunction, that just knocked you down at the end to not passing. There's another way to, vindicate yourself at the end. I think that's important, but other than that, I think we should just open for questions.
Can I make one more comment? Or
yes.
Show one more thing that I think is important is that there are exemptions to the TSI. So I'm not going to go through all these exemptions. There's just really one I want to point out that's specific, especially for math, is that veterans are exempt. But what we have found is that is great. They have fantastic critical thinking skills. But if you throw them into, say, a college algebra class where they haven't necessarily been doing algebra in a while, it can become a disaster for them and a lot of frustration. So a lot of times, even though veterans or students in the military are exempt, we recommend they take the TSI math to see where they place. If you are exempt and you choose to take the TSI, it doesn't mean you have to go by that placement score. But veterans especially, because their benefits do cover developmental math now. That was a change a couple years ago. But so if we do have veteran students, that exemption is still in place, but I think it's a really risky one. And we always recommend that they just go ahead and take it. I just wanted to point that out, and that's all I've got. Mouth shut.
Tracy, yes, question. Yes, students can also be placed according to their PSAT, SAT, or ACT scores. And I do believe that those are being set by the college. I say
no,
that more.
Those are set by the state.
Okay.
They do have and I just mentioned, I have to find the link in all of my research. I'm like, I know I found it. Now I don't remember exactly where it is, but I can get you the link. There, in one of these pages, either the AccuPlacer page or one of those, there is a list of the exemptions and what the scores are for, like the SAT and all of those other tests.
Okay. I just had an email from Scott last year, and I guess he was just poking me to rile me up by asking for opinion on the SAT test scores.
Well, and as I'm saying that, because I mess up.
No. One thing about Scott is he would occasionally say something just to watch me turn red. So It would happen, yes.
For the math, I know that I'm not sure if the SAT scores are set by the state or not, but I know that the other exemptions, some are set by the state and some are set by our institution. And I know our ACT is working on changing a couple of those exemptions for math right now. So it's kind of, for math anyway, some are and some aren't.
I'll be honest now, I'm completely doubting myself.
No way. Tracy says, can the college require the TSI even if the student has reached the exempt threshold on the SAT? No, on the math side, the college cannot. If TCC decides that they are exempt, they are exempt.
Also, something to throw out, the okay, the House Bill. Okay, this one is 2223. House Bill 5, I think it is. That's when the high schools provide their test. Now, the exit exam, like they provide, if you will, a developmental class for their seniors. With that said, though, I believe, I don't know if all of our agreements have shifted over to this, but their exit exam has become the TSI test. So they would still be taking the TSI, but it would be in high school. But they have a year waiver, if you will. So when they exit out of there, if they exit high enough in high school, they have a year waiver to not have to take the TSI. So there is also that exemption. So there are a number of exemptions. That's where it was. Sorry, I just remembered.
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, Ruth. So the math students do not have a 1-year waiver on the TSI.
They don't.
All outcoming high school students do have to take the TSI. They might have taken it at their high school, which we still accept, but there is not a 1-year exemption for the math side.
I did not know that. Good to know. Thank you. Other questions?
We do, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, it's a perspective thing, have students who pass Cal 1 in high school their senior year and cannot pass college algebra. But that's a whole other breakout session.
Yes, it is. But I understand.
But yeah. So, yeah, they are required to take it.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, and again, if you have some specific like if, again, I know there are a number of, there's a lot of information that's been poured at you. If you want some of this, you can let me know. I will try to figure out how to put the PowerPoint presentation in the note, in the minutes, not the minutes, in the message. But if also, I do know that there is a evaluation or something along that line at the beginning of the meeting, and I think Janae also put it throughout, but you'd have to scroll back through the meeting chat. But I think I saw her put that or just a link to it.
Yeah, Jeanette made a comment with it at 2:58, so you can scroll back to
perfect.
2:58.
Perfect. Oh, sorry, my phone just went off. Anyways, so if we have no other questions, I think that's about it for us. Any last parting comments?
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I love saying
Belated.
that. I say it
Happy
like all
belated New Year.
January.
I'm still catching on 2018, so happy 2018. So
hey, whatever. Happy New Year. My favorite phrase.